Intel considering equity infusions from big investors at a discounted price. This is coming as the Trump administration is also weighing an equity stake in the company. Joining us now, former North Dakota Senator Heidi Heitkamp. She's director of the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics and a CNBC contributor. And to agree with her, on the other side, Jeb Hensarling, who served as chairman of the House Financial Service Committee, is now an economics fellow with the Cato Institute. Thanks for joining us. Maybe not, Heidi. We've been talking about it all along, Senator, that we don't know what's what anymore in the political world. There was a time when Democrats loved public-private partnerships and Solyndra and all this kind of stuff. Now they don't, and I assume you don't either. Is this a slippery slope to... I mean, there are people saying it's a slippery slope to Maoism and Marxism.
Well, you know, I think that this is a problem because we no longer have any boundaries on what we can expect from this president in terms of interference with corporate America and, you know, just doing it on his own. And so, I mean, you might criticize Democrats, but I remember during the financial crisis, we actually went to Congress and asked for some support. We actually had an engagement in terms of what that should be. And it really was the MAGA movement that went crazy with the bailouts. Now we're seeing this kind of behavior, whether it's Intel or whether it's the NVIDIA problem. I mean, this is not traditional conservative Republican, and we ought to have a dialogue in this country about whether we should be involved in corporate America this way. And so I'm not opposed to it, Joe. I mean, if it's going to help our national security, but it's being done with fiat. Right.
Jeb, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I can defend it I can say it's different this time, and I can say that we learned during the, you know, I know it never is, but we learned during the pandemic about supply chains and things like that. And there are some things we really need. We need to be able to make drugs here to save lives. And if the constituent parts come from somewhere else, we probably should make them here. You could make the same case for semiconductors. Is this the right way to go about it, in your view?
No, I don't think so. When you talk about putting words in my mouth, you can put the words, it's a slippery slope to something. I certainly agree with you there, and I suspect it's not something good. I mean, frankly, Joe, the first threshold question we have to ask is this even lawful under the CHIPS Act? Now, I don't know. I haven't read it chapter and verse, but number one, we have to rely upon the rule of law. Number one is foundational to the republic, foundational to economic growth. Second of all, I agree with Heidi. I mean, Republicans in another administration would be setting their hair on fire should the administration try to take equity stakes in public companies. I mean, the president earlier said that essentially he wanted to rescind this money and use it to pay down the debt. So I certainly agree with that original inclination. But I would say this is a very, very dangerous precedent because anytime you're in partnership with the federal government, you are the junior partner. And when the CHIPS Act was established and a number of these chip fabricators waited in line to get their grants and loans, I remember the administration said, oh, by the way, there's some fine print here. Number one, you're going to have to provide child care. Number two, you're going to have a DEI plan. Number three, you're going to have an ESG plan. Number four, you're going to have to pay Davis-Bacon wages. And again, Republicans were setting their hair on fire. Those issues had nothing to do with securing our supply chains in these particular types of chips. It had everything to do with a leftist agenda. And so, Joe, what I think you're seeing a little bit of let's fight fire with fire. I'm not totally unsympathetic to that, but I'd much prefer us to just put the fire out.
That's what I was going to say. You could make the case that this is less bad and that the Democrats started this endeavor with this fool's errand with the CHIPS Act. At least the government would be getting a stake. Why just, you know, what you described is even more hideous than what we're... So it's less bad. And the slippery slope was started by the CHIPS Act. Couldn't you say? And you know what, Jeb? You seem so much wiser. I can't put my finger on what it is listening to you today. Can you? What happened? Why do you seem like you know so much? Is that it? That is it, isn't it? It's the
beard.
It's the beard. It's the beard. Heidi, you want to? This is see. That's I'm gonna. Since he's not going to argue with you, I'm going to argue with you. Democrats started this, and they didn't even get a stake. At least we get a stake that taxpayers might make some money on someday, instead of just giving them money if they do child care.
We discussed it was impossible to get a stake. You couldn't have asked for a stake because they didn't even want to take the money. Nobody wanted to do this originally.
Don't bother me with facts. Go ahead.
Thanks,
Heidi.
Andrew. Thanks, Andrew.
I'm trying.
Go ahead.
Heidi, go for it.
You know, these aren't comparable. We have incentivized a lot of manufacturing, whether it's the R&D tax credits. We believe in incentivizing manufacturing. You might argue about whether it should have been conditioned on child care or conditioned on, equity, but taking a stake in a public company unilaterally without any kind of discussion is not something Democrats have ever done. I just have to say that, Joe.
Right. But my point is it's better than what you have done. It's an uptick, but it's less bad. Jeb,
it's dangerous, Joe, and you know it.
Jeb,
I thought during the Obama administration, equity stakes were taken in Chrysler that somehow got categorized as a financial institution under the Dodd-Frank Act. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah. But was done with Congress. Was done with Congress.
Well, the bottom line is it was still an equity stake in a company. Yeah. So, listen, if we want to incent companies, maybe there's a better way to do it. And we certainly saw part of it in the one big, beautiful bill, and whether it had to do with immediate expensing, whether it had to do with accelerated depreciation, whether or not it had to do with at least locking in some of the tax rates, the lower tax rates. A broad incentive to help promote economic growth is one thing. Trying to do these insular, discrete programs to help a particular industry, again, who says Congress or even the president is so wise to know which particular industries that should be rewarded? And I would say we're going to rue the day.
Obama said that.
We're going to rue the
and no one has mentioned the potential distortion to the market. I mean, you saw what happened with Intel. I mean, you play around in this. It is dangerous without a real broad public discussion.
If the government's in there, it's too big to fail. They're going to prop up someone that maybe it should fail. Here's one. Let me ask you this, Heidi. Though, President Trump's sort of what he's trying to do, what is behind all these things, is something we should be trying to do, and that is, we've got a hollowed-out core. We want to bring back jobs here for a lot that have gone overseas. We'd like to not be dependent on our enemies to supply us with things we really need. These are all things that we probably want to do. There's an expression that we do everything wrong until we do something right. I mean, at this point, we're searching for a way to affect some of these changes. Maybe you don't think they're perfect, but you have a better way of doing this, of bringing chip making back here so that we're not dependent on China or Taiwan?
Well, I completely agree that these are absolutely essential industries that need to be, we need to incentivize to bring back to this country. And I absolutely believe that this is a national security imperative. My problem is we need to have a broader discussion about the best way to do this. We need to know what the overall plan is. What's the exit plan, Joe? We don't know any of this. This is, I just have to ask this question. Is there anything that this president would do in corporate America that anyone would stand up and say, this is a step too far? And to me, we had the example last week of what was happening with NVIDIA. Now we have Intel. What is a step too far, and when should this go to Congress?